Hi everyone, I'm Devanshu, and today I'm going to talk about InstaBid. InstaBid is an auction marketplace for Instagram images. Today I'm going to talk about the idea, the how the workflow for different personas on this platform will look like, what is the use case that we are targeting, the extensions that we think this we can build in the future, and the architecture and the technical details for the platform. So let's get started. The idea is that we want to build a platform that allows people to buy images that they have posted on Instagram via crypto. Instagram is a purely visual platform with a lot of status game at play. But today, there's no way to sell Instagram content, and there's no way to prove that a person really owns that image. This is where blockchain technology comes in. We can use it to build a decentralized, transparent auction marketplace. Blockchain also provides us with the capability to cryptographically prove the ownership of the image. One of the major issues with the current landscape of blockchain technology is that it has a very high barrier for entry. With this project, we are essentially building a bridge between a Web 2.0 centralized social media to Web 3.0 decentralized auction marketplace. And the best part is the user doesn't feel like they are using something bleeding edge. Uh, we also took it as a side aim to build an intuitive UI which is friendly without exposing any internal technical details to the user. And maybe I'm going ahead of myself, but if the project feels like a normal Web 2.0 website, it would be a success. Let's quickly go through the workflow for artists and celebrities, how it would look like, how this auction is going to take place. So the artist is going to come, they are going to register themselves. Our platform is going to ask them for the read write permissions for their Instagram account. They are going to import some images onto our platform, and then they are going to open auction for those they want to sell. As soon as the auction goes live, the buyers are able to see the auction, and they can come in and start bidding on image. Once the artist feels like they have got good amount of bids, they will finish the auction and the platform will perform the transfer of assets. There are two assets involved. One is the transfer of balance, also the currency, and the image ownership transfer. One of the extra additions we thought we would build but is not built is that once the image transfer happens, we could go back to Instagram and change the caption of the image which says that, hey, this image is owned by this person and is not owned by the person who represents this account. This is a small way in which the buyer can also prove off chain that they are the owner of the image. And this in turn goes into the idea of increasing the status of the buyer. But unfortunately, it is not allowed to change the caption by Instagram Graph API. So we'll build that once that is available. How does the workflow for buyers look like? Artists can ask the buyers to come to the platform, say they are selling their images. The bids will happen, and it's the same thing. Once the highest bid is selected, we will perform the transfer of assets. The prime use case we are targeting with this project is primarily charity events where high profile artists like movie stars can come in and they can hold auctions for the images which can then be routed to the charity of their choosing. It can also serve as source of income for some people, some artists. One of the major extensions that we thought of is that at the end of the day, Instagram is just one social media where digital assets of an artist are present. And if you think about it, it's just a data source for images. In future, we can integrate it with multiple platforms like YouTube, Pinterest, Facebook, Twitter, etc. With that, now I'll go into the architectural and technical details of this project, and then I'm going to show a demo of the project, of our live running project. So our architecture has three parts. We have a React frontend for UI, we have a Node.js backend and a MongoDB to store the data, and then we have a substrate blockchain. This substrate blockchain, let me pull in the image. This is how it looks. A React frontend, it talks to Node.js backend. We have connections to MongoDB. It stores some amount of data. The React frontend is able to talk to the substrate chain, which houses some amount of data. So let me go into what exact data that we store on the blockchain. One of the major things to store on the blockchain is the balance and the resource ownership data. What resource ownership means is that in our system, we have called any asset as a resource, which means image is a type of resource. And we need to prove who owns that resource. And this is where I have built a balance and ownership palette for that. The other data we need to maintain is the auction data, and for that I have built an auction palette. So let me go ahead and show you some of the details. This is how the data looks like on the MongoDB. We have users, we store the balance here, we store the names, the address associated with that person, we store the images, the resources that person owns or has sold. You'll get the idea about this once you see the demo. And we store all type of details here. Then I'd like to show you the Polkadot substrate portal, where I have already loaded my custom endpoint. The main things that I would like to show you is the state that is stored in the balance and ownership palette that I have built and the auction palette that I have built. The major state for balances and ownership is obvious. We store the balance in a hash map, and we store the ownership details as in the hash of the resource and the account ID, corresponding account ID. For the let me for the auction, we store the auction data and which auctions are open right now, and the resource to auction mapping, as in which resource is associated to which auction. So let me show you if I can. I've already done some auctions on this platform, so the data is right now present on the blockchain. So this is what the data we store on the blockchain. We store the resource hash, which is actually the ID that Instagram returns for that resource. This is the state of the auction, which is now closed. We store the initial owner and the final owner. We store what is the amount of currency that was transferred, and we store the bid history as well. So this is the state that we store on the blockchain. And then now I would like to show you the extrinsics. We allow people to register onto our platform. We allow people to register their resources so that we can later prove the ownership for that resource. And then we also provide transfer of balance and the transfer of resource extrinsic. For the auction palette, uh, it should be, this is not super technical. We allow people to open an auction for a resource, we allow them to finish, and we also allow them a way to bid resource, and all of this data is stored on the blockchain. That covers the technical details of the project, and now you can go ahead and see the demo. Thank you. And now I'm going to give a demo of my project, InstaBid, which is an auction marketplace for images you have on Instagram and leveraging the Substrate blockchain. For this demonstration, I've created two test Instagram accounts, John and Abigail, and we're going to use these two test accounts to demo our project. I have already deployed my chain and the associated backend on Azure. They are live right now. So we are going to use the same thing for this demonstration. So the story starts like this. Abigail, she has some images that she wants to sell. And for that, she's going to come to this URL, and we provide her with an option to log in with Facebook. This is going to pull in all the images from there. So let's continue. Let's wait for her to get logged in. Meanwhile, this calls into Facebook SDK and gets all the associated tokens that we'll need later to query the Instagram Graph API. She is in. When we come to the home page, we get two options, Explore and Profile. Explore contains all the open auctions that are live right now on the platform, and Profile houses all the personal details of Abigail. So let's quickly check if there are any live auctions. I'm going to click on Explore. As you can see, no auctions are currently live. I can also show you the chain state because we store the auction data on blockchain. I have already loaded my custom chain on this Polkadot portal, and I have written an auction palette for that. So let's try to query the chain. I have provided a function to do that. Let's query it, and you can notice there are no open auctions as well, which is consistent with what we see on the page. Let's go to Profile. It fetches the user, and initially every person who registers, they get 21 million tokens for demo purposes. Let's import some images from the Facebook API. Internally, what this does is that it calls in Instagram API, fetches all the images, and then goes on to register each of the image on the blockchain, which essentially means that Abigail is the current owner of this image, and we store that on chain. For that, I use balances in ownership palette, and for that we can check resource ownership via this. I'm going to skip doing that for now. Let's wait for it to register. And as you can see, the images are now under owned section of the profile. Let's go ahead and open the auction for this image. I'm going to click this open auction button. We will have to input some initial bid amount. Let's set this at 5,000. It's going to create the auction. It's going to go back to blockchain and register this auction there as well. So we should see in the blockchain state that we have created an auction. Let's wait for it to get done. As you can see, now the image that we opened auction on is under open auctions section. Let's go to portal and check if there are any open auctions. So as you can notice, this has automatically updated, and now what this means is that we have an open auction with an ID of 10. So let's go ahead and validate that by clicking open auction and actually opening the page. So going to fetch the auction data from blockchain, and here it is. As you can notice, this is auction number 10, which is also replicated by the blockchain data. The state of the auction is open, and the initial bid was 5,000, and currently Abigail, she owns it. She is the max bid owner, and there have been no bids on this. So let's go ahead and imagine this, that John, he is going to bid on our image on this auction. So let's go ahead and register John. This is again going to go and register John on the blockchain as well. Internally, what we do is that we map each of these people to an address, and we can see that address here. And what this means is that Alice is associated with some owner ID, and I think John has updated, so we should see that Alice stash gets some other owner. This just for information purpose. It's hard to map the IDs to John and Abigail. We'll see that some other time. Let's go ahead and click on explore. We should see the auction here, the auction that is live, and we do see it. Let's open the auction. We should see a bid button there where we can actually bid. We only accept bids that are greater than the present maximum, because there's no point in bidding lower than the current maximum. I'm going to simulate that, and this bid should fail right now. As you can see, the bid has failed. Let's try to bid 6,000 tokens and submit. It's again going to go to the backend. It's going to talk to the blockchain. It's going to put in this state of the auction into the blockchain. Let's wait for that to happen. And now, as you can see, John has successfully bid 6,000, which is greater than the previous max, that was 5,000. Let's go ahead to Abigail's side and let's refresh the auction data. Abigail can now see that John has bid 6,000 tokens on her photo, on her image. She feels that this is a fair price for her image, and what she's going to do is that she's going to finish auction now. This finish auction is again going to go to the blockchain, is going to close the auction that is open, and we should totally see that being updated in the Polkadot portal as soon as this opens. What this also will trigger is the transfer of balance from John to Abigail and transfer of this image to John. So as you can see, the state has closed. Let's go over to John's side and check if that is replicated there as well. As you can see, we can see John is the max bid owner and the auction is closed. Let's go ahead to Polkadot portal and we'll see that, hey, there are no open auctions now. Cool. So let's go ahead to the home page and let's see the profile one by one. it's going to fetch the current data, and what we see is that on Abigail's side we can see that image has been sold, and we can notice that the balance has been updated. The what John had bid on that image is what she has got. And let's go over to John's side and let's see how it looks. As you can now see, John now owns this image and can again open auction on this, and as you notice, the balance has reduced to 6,000 by 6,000 tokens. So this is the demo, end-to-end demo for the auction flow, and right now I'm going to end this demo with this. Thanks a lot for watching.